Welcome to the Life Poetic with Thomas Keily, your weekly knowledge drop of wordcraft and invocation. This week we're looking at the American poet Saul Williams. Saul Williams is one of the most popular and one of the best poets straddling the world between poetry and hip-hop. A lot of hip-hop MCs like to think of themselves as poets, but for Saul Williams it's really true. And he came from a poetry and theatre background and then moved into hip-hop, though hip-hop's very present in his background and comes through strongly in his writing. Have a look at Telegram to Hip-Hop if you like. It's one of the classics. His pieces are quite long, so I'm not going to read a whole piece here, but I've included a couple of links below to two of my personal favourites. Have a look, you won't be disappointed. In particular, have a look at the piece called Black Stacey. The video that I'm linking to is an a cappella version, but this comes from one of his hip-hop albums and is typically performed with musical accompaniment. But in this case, you can see how strong a writer he is, because he's bringing out this rhythm, quite an interesting rhythm too. Like it's not a typical hip hop rhythm, but this sort of almost jazzy kind of rhythm, and that's coming through in the writing. But also the writing is strong enough that you can listen to quite a long piece and stay engaged with it. There's not many hip hop tracks or MCs that you can do that with. That the writing will stand up without the music behind it. Saul Williams' writing is filled with many gems, but I just wanted to draw one out for you, something that I really love. It's like this. I can think of nothing heavier than an aeroplane. I can think of no greater conglomerate of steel and metal. I can think of nothing less likely to fly. There are no wings more weighted. I too have known a heaviness. I quite love this little particular piece of writing. I think I quite love the message, like saying it gets you to tune into the heaviness of the airplane, and you resonate, yeah, that's definitely a heavy thing. And then the parallel he draws, like the soul itself is heavy, like we move through life and it's filled with this heaviness, and it's, of course it's heavy. We might want it to be light, but there is a real heaviness to life. And yet, despite that heaviness, we are still able to fly. We still have this capacity for flight, this capacity for great joy and love and spiritual fulfillment. And we have this capacity despite the heaviness of life. And so I find that a really beautiful message. The thing that I really love about the way that he structures this bit of writing as well is that he sort of brings home these heavy imagery and really anchors in the idea that the plane, how heavy the plane is, and the steel and the metal and the wings is unlikely to fly. And then with that last line at the end, I too have known a heaviness, that you're kind of connecting at a really personal and deep emotional level. You're almost shifting from this kind of technical description of a plane to a very personal message from the author. And then when he brings that message in, then suddenly you've got to go back and rethink what you've just heard about the plane. You go, yeah, plane's heavy, yeah, it's not likely to fly. I too have known a heaviness. Like, yeah, I have a heaviness. Everyone has felt this heaviness. And so the power in this little piece of writing, I think, is it anchors in that heaviness. And then there's, of course, flight is possible. And so from the place of heaviness, you suddenly have this uplifting kind of, yeah, it is possible, it can be done, through the poet's raw admission of vulnerability. And I think that's quite powerful. So let's just have a quick look on the page. I can think of nothing heavier than an aeroplane. I can think of no greater conglomerate of steel and metal. I can think of nothing less likely to fly. There are no wings more weighted. I too have felt a heaviness. This has been the Life Poetic with Thomas Keily. See you next week.